Item 6 is a delegation. The request for delegation is received from Chris and Mariah Corcoran on September 28th, and it's regarding short-term rental accommodation. I'll call for the motion. Be it resolved that council permit Chris Corcoran to take the floor to make a presentation regarding short-term rentals. Could I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Gibson, second Councillor Bruce. Chris, if you'd like to come up here to this table and you can make your presentation to council.
Hello. I just want to thank all the council members for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My wife was supposed to be accompanying me. Unfortunately, she had to rush our son to the ER this morning. So I likely wouldn't be here if this wasn't such an important matter to us. But I'm just going to dive right into it. We've essentially been stuck in the home building process for over 2 years now. And it's been the most challenging thing we've ever done in our lives. Throughout the process, the only thing that kept us going was the fact that we knew that we had the option to do short-term rentals once our house was finished. That was the light at the end of the tunnel for us. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I sit here wondering how young people are supposed to get ahead in this world. Food prices have skyrocketed, rent prices have nearly doubled. The cost of owning a home for most has become merely a wish, and the cost of living has taken off in almost every way imaginable. Every time I open my news feed, there's several stories of an upcoming global recession. It feels like a bad dream, but it's a reality for so many people. We understand that you guys needed to put a bylaw in place. We agree that it is totally unacceptable for someone to rent their house out to host raging parties night after night and to destroy the peace and tranquility of a calm and quaint neighborhood. We do believe that policies and bylaws are important and need to be in effect to ensure that one man's home is not another man's hell. We believe that people do need to be held accountable for their actions and take personal responsibility for every renter that they allow into their homes. But with that said, we do feel that many people, as a result of the short-term rental bylaw, are being punished for crimes so that they did not and would not commit. A little bit about us. We're a young family who has just built our first home, and as a result of the new short-term rental bylaw, we will be unable to afford our mortgage. We started designing our house in June of 2020 with a local architect and building inspector, Barbara Waldron. When we designed our house, it was during the dawn of COVID, and we immediately started facing delays to the panic that was spreading throughout the world. Our architect wasn't able to meet with engineers in person, and nearly all correspondence had moved to email. We had been told by our architect that the entire process would take 1 month to complete. A total of 9 months later, we had received our plans, 8 months behind schedule. From the beginning, our long-term plan was to generate short-term rental income to help pay for our mortgage. We were told by our builder that we would be in our house by Christmas of 2021. The reality is that we did not get into our house until just last month, pushing us another 9 months behind schedule, now sitting at a total of 17 months behind schedule. Like many home builders throughout COVID, we faced drastic delays in building materials, which resulted in us having to incur the additional expenses associated with the winter build. The cost of our house went far over budget due to the extreme price increases in building materials, which should have cost us $600,000, has now put us over $1 million in debt. We've literally put every single penny we've earned into building this house. Due to the nature of our house loan and the drastic overages, long-term rentals will not generate enough revenue to assist us in paying our monthly mortgage. We feel that more notice should have been provided before passing this bylaw so that home builders under construction throughout the pandemic could plan and adapt to these drastically changing regulations. Had we have known that we would be losing our opportunity for short-term rental income, we would have not moved forward with the construction of our house. People caught in our situation have suffered to a great extent financially from the hyperinflated cost of materials throughout this time period. We believe that there should be an alteration to the bylaw for this small group of people that were under construction during the pandemic, which made it impossible to meet the criteria of the deadline. It is my understanding that the meeting for short-term rentals was announced on April 13th and to take place on the 26th of 2022. Comparatively, that was 13 days notice for us who were already 22 months into the design and building process. We apologize that we were not there that night to voice our opinions, but it was not until months after that we found out that such a meeting had taken place. Unfortunately, if that notice isn't posted on TikTok or Instagram, many people from our generation are unlikely to see it. We do believe that we are in a unique situation. We are located on a forested lot over 400 meters from our closest neighbor in the remote countryside. My wife and I, along with our 1-year-old son, will be living in the house all year round. We live less than 1 kilometer away from a family-owned resort and wedding venue, which constantly has overflow guests that need a place to sleep at night. We started to take short-term rental bookings dating back to November 18th, 2021 for the upcoming year, as we were under the impression that our house would be long completed by that time. To date, we have taken 16 short-term rental bookings before becoming aware of the new bylaw. We have canceled nearly all of these bookings due to our house not being complete. But with that said, we still have rentals booked for 2023 that were taken prior to the new bylaw going into effect. We have substantial proof, written and financial, that we were intending on using our home for short-term rental income well before May of 2022 when the new bylaw was put into effect. We have designed a comprehensive liability waiver that is in complete accordance with the new bylaw that clearly states that there is to be no large gatherings, parties, pets, or noise disturbances. We have just poured our entire lives into this project to make a home and a life for our family. We are not foreign investors that could care less about the effect on the neighborhood. We have a 1.5-year-old son living under the same roof, and we will not allow this to become a party house. The reality is that we're a young family starting a new life together. I myself have been a personal resident of the Alnwick-Haldimand Township since the day I was born. Over the past couple of years, we have been totally crushed through this home build, financially, emotionally, physically. And now we sit here before you at the township, the people elected by the people for the people, begging you to give us the opportunity to provide a life for our family. I know with the new council coming in shortly, there might be some reluctance to take any actions on the bylaw that you have put so much effort into crafting. I commend all of you for listening intently to the challenges and hardships that some people in this municipality have had with short-term rentals. All these voices are important and need to be heard. And the situation obviously needed to be addressed. We know much time, discussion, and effort must have gone into crafting this new bylaw, and we do believe that it serves as a strong foundation to be built upon. I know our single case that we put before you may not carry much significance in comparison to the opposing voices that you've heard, but please know there is another side to the story that needs to be heard. To you, this might not sound like much, but to us, this is everything. This is our future. At this point in time, we are not asking that you rewrite the entire bylaw. We are simply asking that you allow us to move forward with the plans that we had developed and put into action long before the bylaw had come into effect. Given our unique and unfortunate situation, we ask that you please allow us to be either grandfathered into the short-term rental agreement or that a minor alteration be made to the bylaw for the few individuals in our unique situation, as our livelihood now depends on it. I just want to read a quick comment that my wife was going to say. I would just like to mention that I am a registered nurse and I cannot imagine going back to working 12-hour shifts now that I have a little child. Doing short-term rentals out of our home was my way of finding more time to spend with our child in these early stages of development. It will allow me to be a stay-at-home mom and run a business. I would be cleaning the rental side of the house and handling all of the correspondence with renters. I sincerely thank you guys, you council members, for hearing me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Questions from council? Do you have any questions?
Hi, Chris. My name is Mike Phillip. I'm a counselor. Chris, I want to ask you, a very simple question, and it might resolve your situation. And that is, will you say that my wife and I, along with our 1-year-old son, will be living in the house all year round?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So why, are you familiar with how bed and breakfasts work?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So what would be your opposition to running a bed and breakfast?
I would have two oppositions. One would be when we designed the house, we designed it for 4 bedrooms. I know the bylaw for bed and breakfast only allows for 3 rental bedrooms in it. The second would be just the marketing capacity of short-term rental platforms like Airbnb and VRBO. One thing I find really unique about Airbnb, for instance, is that it gives you the option to vet your renters. You know, you can have auto approve, which many people have, but you can also have it set so that you have to look at their profile, look at their reviews, and then you make the decision as to whether they're a renter that you want to have stay at your property. Because our house has gone so far over budget and our mortgage is so outside of the realm of what we can afford just with my income alone, the benefits to Airbnb would mostly just be the sheer amount of
Volume.
volume.
So, I mean, you could at least climb out of the hole with 3 bedrooms
Yeah.
and use it as an Airbnb.
Mhm.
And, you know, that would represent 75% of your, of a gain there. And, you know, I can't speak for council, but I do know that we are supportive of bed and breakfast. We are not supportive of, what do we call it? Help me here, staff, council,
Yes.
short-term rentals. And, you know, if you, I think if you showed a little bit of flexibility there, you'd have a way out and you'd be able to support your family. And I really get it. As you know, all of the things that you've mentioned about, you know, personal hardship and all of that, you know, my heart goes out to you. I see it every day, and I see it in, you know, many situations. So we're not in any way disrespecting your recommendation or your proposal to us, but you know, we're trying to find a way around this for you. Or I'm only speaking for myself because, of course, council would have to, you know, air their point of view as well. But I think that would be, you know, an immediate relief for you to consider at least going the bed and breakfast route. You know, and the other thing you can keep in mind is that this is a living document. You know, we fully expected as a council that we would have to grow this out over time. And it would give you that gap and the opportunity to get into the income end of it right away. If you were, you know, hoping to lobby for changes going forward. I personally am not in favor of changing the bylaw, but that's just me, right? There are other people sitting at council too. And as you so aptly said, we have an election shortly, and that may very well change the lay of the land as well. But you also recognized, and I appreciate that you recognize the fact that we have a very, very vocal, strong group of residents. I don't know how many people were in that room that night, but I'm going to say 75. Wasn't a person in there that didn't support the bylaw, not one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we have to listen to everyone, and we represent all the residents in our community, right? And our job is to support the residents in the community. So as you know, and you've respected that, and I respect the fact that you came here and you know, made a wholehearted presentation to us. And, you know, I just want to thank you for doing that. But I wanted you to see where I sit.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Gibson?
Thanks. Chris, just, this may be kind of a silly question to you, but how, if you're going to do a short-term rental, but you're going to be in your house 365 days a year, how are you managing that?
Yeah, so we would be living in the house. When we designed the house, we designed it so that we would be living on one side of the house, and then the front side of the house would be dedicated for short-term rentals.
So there's two separate entrances and
separation.
basically two
Ex-
separate dwellings?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a firewall in place. It was kind of all from the onset designed to be in such a way so that we could generate revenue in the future.
Yeah, because I empathize with your situation, and I mean, I think probably, 90 whatever % of the young adult population is facing the same challenges that you and Mariah are. But I'm wondering, we've a shortage of secondary housing here. Have you given consideration to actually renting out then? If you have a separate unit from your home, have you given consideration to having long-term renters in?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a solution. The other thing is, because we heard from Jim Corcoran at St. Anne's at our last council meeting, and maybe there's an opportunity moving forward to recognize somewhere in this short-term rental bylaw outside of just, short-term rentals, but attached to resorts. There may be an opportunity for staff to write something into that bylaw that can better accommodate our existing tourism that we've got here. And I'm guessing that some of that short-term rental that you were hoping to draw on would come from Whispering Springs.
That's correct.
So I'm not prepared at this point in my term to make a change to the bylaw, but I think it's something that you need to bring forward, to the incoming council, and perhaps, even now, if we can maybe get staff to do some investigation on, how other people have written in sort of resort short-term rentals. And there may be an opportunity for change, because as Councillor Phillips said, that this is a living document, and we never go into anything thinking that we've come up against a brick wall and we're not moving forward. But I wish you good luck with it. I think we have to do as much as we can to support the existing tourism businesses that we've got. And I would say that both St. Anne's and Whispering Springs definitely fall into that category. So I don't know if I could make a recommendation that it go back to staff to do some investigation on existing resorts. I don't know how you word that. Pat, you know what I'm trying to say. Existing resorts.
Zonings, you could get the
Zoning
zonings
for
in there.
short-term rentals. So it's not just,
It's
number
not,
of companies coming in and purchasing homes and putting them up, but they're attached to the resorts.
Yeah, and I think that is an excellent option. I can say firsthand, the majority of our neighbors in our close proximity do take advantage of that, which we are, extremely grateful for. And I think it is something that has brought a lot of prosperity to the people surrounding us in that area. The other option is, it's a bus going to the Best Western over at Coburg. So if that was something that we could look at, that I'd be very interested in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
any other comments? No. I think that's a really good idea that Deputy Mayor Gibson has had, that we address staff and ask them to take a look at it closer to resorts. Do you know what your zoning is?
Currently, we are rural residential. I
Okay,
believe.
so you don't have a zoning for a short-term rental, you would have to apply for a rezoning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
okay. You're not the only one that's had the same issue. Besides Jim, there's, excuse me. There's, I've had another call from a person in the North End and has a tourism business. So perhaps it is a good idea that in the tourist areas that maybe we can get staff to put something else in that are close to, or at least have a look at it
Mhm.
and see what can be done and have a cost for that with zoning.
It's not, it won't be quick, like, it's not a quick fix, because it'll go back to staff who have to investigate and write the report. It's gonna come back to a new council who may have, you know, different ideas than any one of us around this table. But it's a step forward, I think, and it's one that I think really, as this township being tourism based, we probably need to look at.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Yes,
Just to reiterate, if you're in a situation where you want to generate some income, it's there for you right now,
Mhm.
using the example.
Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding, if I can interject, is that I would need to change our zoning to a limited service residential zone. Because I believe that's the only one that allows for bed and breakfast. So maybe that's something I need to bring to council at another point. I'm not sure of the process, but
We could
you
look at
start
that.
at the planning department.
okay.
Yeah, start at the planning department. You might get through quicker
Mhm.
that way
Okay.
and develop on two fronts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. I really appreciate all your thoughts. And I know my wife would be very appreciative if she was here as well. So thank you for your time today. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, good luck
Yeah.
with your son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
Your
you.
little guys.
You're running there right now.
Yeah.
Can I have a vote on the first motion to let Chris speak? All in favor? Carrie? And then I'll entertain the motion from you, Sherry. The
So,
recommendation?
yeah, I will make a motion that we ask staff to investigate and come back to a report on including short-term rentals within existing tourism facilities
And area,
and, yeah, proximity areas.
whatever that proximity may turn out to be.
Yeah.
Can I have a seconder to that motion? Okay, it's moved by,
Is the wording wrong?
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm trying to
That
say, I just may
proximity,
not be getting
I
the
don't
wording
like
right.
the additional proximity piece. I'm fine with the commercial connection to Whispering Springs, but
But it has to be within,
Pandora's
and that,
box.
and
What?
I don't know if we should be putting, I don't think we should be putting limitations on that. I think that's for staff to come back with the recommendation.
Yeah.
So it's just for staff to come back with a report on allowing for short-term rentals in relationship to existing tourism facilities.
I wasn't growing the proximity. I was just using that as a term.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Fine. Okay.
so it was moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried.